Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our latest Product Crowd digital event. I'm Lou and head up our Products and Agile Delivery team at Sheehan. Today, I'm joined by James Ojo, who is a Product Manager at SoEnergy, and Sheree Lim, who's a Product Manager at Trey. And they'll be sharing with us their knowledge and expertise around NoCode tools from both a customer and vendor perspective. For any questions throughout the talk, please do use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to those at the end. Cool. Thanks, James. Sheree, to you.
Yeah, it's a great start when you're on mute. Okay, hi everyone. So I'll probably start off by just sharing some slides that we've created today to facilitate, but it's just going to be mostly us talking as well to kind of talk through this. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm guessing like there's a wide range of people. Probably some people are PMs, some people are curious about PMs, or some people that probably work with product managers. And this is a really good presentation today, just to kind of talk about some of our experiences using NoCode tools and why we feel like they're really helpful in empowering businesses. That's me to start off myself. So yeah, probably go pass it over to Sheree to do an intro of herself first. If I can get this slide to work.
Hey everyone, so a little bit about me. My name is Sheree and I'm a product manager at Trey.io. I've been a product manager for about 3 years and I'm currently managing the building experience at Trey and ensuring our platform is enterprise ready. Previously, before my life as a PM, I was a data analyst at a social media agency working with leading brands such as Adidas, YouTube and Google. Fun fact about me, I used to work as a footwear developer making shoes at Puma in their global headquarters in Puma.
Brilliant. So yeah, I'm James Ojo. I'm working at SoEnergy, and what I'm doing there is building the online quote portal for them so that we can enable people that are interested in solar panels to order and transact online, which is obviously good for our operational costs as well. We're also working on a solution for electric vehicle drivers as well. So that's quite new, and it just means that I'm kind of focusing on the kind of new products at SoEnergy. I've got 5 years experience working in tech generally in areas around growth and product. And I've previously done business analyst positions at Noco and Credit Suisse. I should say a fun fact about myself. I'll probably say that my fun fact is that I used to live in Nigeria for a couple of years during my teens, which is quite interesting considering the fact that I'm working in an energy space, just because there's a massive opportunity in places like Africa if you think about the amount of sunlight and electricity that they get as well. So yeah, so today, just talking through the agenda, what we thought would be really good and we're really excited to kind of talk to you about is just going through what NoCode is and how NoCode tools can actually help us in our day-to-day work as PMs, and just more around like how NoCode is allowing us to kind of empower ourselves in the work that we do, especially as knowledge workers. I'm sure everyone can kind of empathize with the fact that PMs are the ones that bring the donuts. So even though a lot of the times we don't have necessarily the tools or the team in place, we're still looked at to kind of deliver on these things. And as a result, it's so important that we prioritize solving the most important problems and just being able to make the necessary trade-offs. So we'll be able to talk a little bit about how NoCode is helping us do that. And then at the end, obviously, if you've got any questions, which we hope you do, then we'll be able to do a Q&A right at the end. Okay. So what is NoCode? I think that's a really, really good question to kind of kick off. Certainly for me, a few years ago, I didn't actually really know what NoCode was. And if I had to describe it very succinctly, because you're going to see a slide in a minute that kind of summarizes it, I would say that NoCode tools are basically making creation more accessible, and they're reinventing the way things are built for the internet. So you no longer need to be a programmer to build things or to solve important problems in your everyday life or in your work as well. the definition we've got here is on the screen, about the fact that it's basically a visual. These are like visual development tools, things you can drag and drop, and just basically do cool things. And if you think about PMs, we're always talking about being outcome focused. So for us, it's like, you know, it's what are the necessary outcomes that we need to do, and these tools have been designed with that in mind. And arguably, you know, a lot of people will say like, well, some of these tools have been around for years. Like you've got tools that are called what you see is what you get, and you've got tools that are, you know, that have kind of been doing a lot of these kind of things that we're saying that no-code tools do before the actual name came about. But it just goes back to my previous point. I strongly believe that no-code is really about empowerment, and it's about reinventing and thinking about products from these principles of like, what, you know, what problems are we trying to solve, and who are the people that are using it, and why do they care about how it's built or how it's developed. And I think that's a really exciting thing. So in terms of tools, I think no-code tools basically empower people to, like I said before, building technology without code. And we don't actually have to be the designers or the engineers doing that. And there are a lot of examples that you can see over here. I'm sure some of you recognize these logos. I can talk to some of these, like Card, for example, whipping up landing pages really, really quickly. Or, you know, I'm sure a lot of us have used Typeform as well, or things like Shopify if you've got a shopping cart and some kind of checkout flow, or Airtable, which is quite interesting because it's almost like we start to think of Airtable as it's a spreadsheet. It's a database that behaves like a spreadsheet, and you can do really, really powerful things. So these are like some examples of some of the tools that we've seen and kind of like the way we've been able to use them.
Thanks, James. Yeah, I actually love using Card as well. And in the Maker community weekend club where I actually met James, I went along on my first day having absolutely no knowledge really of web development, and managed to kind of whip together a website using Card of a place to find local fitness communities. And I used Airtable as well. I managed to pipe the data in using an automation platform into Card. So that was, and you know, did that in about 6 hours, and pretty much all for free. I think I bought the web domain for about $8. So that was kind of an amazing moment for me, realizing the power of these no-code tools. But why should you care, really? You know, in the recent no-code conference, the analogy was made: imagine if only 1 in 200 people could read. We'd pretty much be stuck in the dark ages. Like you can't really think of a time where people couldn't read. So imagine if only, you know, 1 in 200 people could code, which is pretty much where we're at as a society. You know, we're much slower and we're far less creative. But now with no-code tools, we've changed that. The no-code revolution led to the SaaS explosion, which meant that thousands of applications were created to help us solve problems. It's now so much easier to find specialized solutions. If we think of the past in HR, where employee records were stored in aging databases or endless spreadsheets or even on paper. And now we've got tools like Bamboo, which just, you know, they've got slick user interfaces. They make life so much easier for HR teams. And as PMs, we now have tools to help us find and solve our users' problems. I'm sure some of our more experienced PMs remember when all user feedback was collected over the phone and written down on paper. And now we've got tools like Product Board, streamlining our entire product discovery process. It's kind of a whole new world we're living in, and that's enabled by no-code tools. Across the world, oh, sorry, just go back a slide, James. Across the world as well, you can see the increase in the searches of no-code. It's exploded over the last couple of years. And as a product manager, you always want to have your nose in front and be ahead of the game. And the majority of companies are now turning to different no-code tools. So being able to easily grasp this concept will set you up for success as a PM. No-code tools help us essentially build products more efficiently. And as we're constantly evolving into more agile ways of working, we now don't have the luxury of having 2, 3, or even 5-year timelines for products. We need things quicker than ever, and no-code tools can help us with this. And a few examples of how you can build efficiently. So let's say you need a fast launch of a new product or an MVP. You're a founder of a startup. Thanks to NoCode, you can now create an MVP and test your hypothesis. If I'm a non-techie person trying to plan to build a future unicorn, I need to test the feasibility of my idea, and I need to do experiments and iterate. The first step would be to probably launch a website or a mobile app to understand the demand. And I can pay a dev agency, or I can go with an independent coder because I can't do it myself. But now I don't need to do either. And I could just get started with NoCode. I can mock up a website even on something like Google Slides, or use a basic wireframing tool. I can also build internal tools with NoCode. I can build custom CRMs, survey forms, checklists, dashboards, admin panels, an intranet space, even a mobile app for employees. And most of the time, building business apps requires integration with other tools in the back end, using no-code automation tools such as Zapier, Trey.io, or Airtable. So you might be wondering what an automation platform is. And automation we're really seeing is on the rise, and we're seeing this kind of new space of iPaaS tools. So basically, with all these kind of new specialized services we've just been talking about, Airtable, Card, companies are now faced with a different problem. These services don't actually talk to each other. You have problems such as, you can't share data, you're manually copying data between different places, you're going to be prone to errors, you're wasting time. With all this time spent elsewhere, PMs aren't actually empowered to do their jobs. So we're seeing modern and experienced businesses turn to general automation platforms. So you're hearing me say general automation platform, and what the hell is that? A general automation platform enables citizen automators in any type of business role, technical or non-technical, to build enterprise integrations and automations themselves. So let's take a really, really simple example. Let's say every month you're a PM, or you're a head of product, and you send a slide deck out to some stakeholders with product updates and announcements because you're keeping them in the loop. Usually, what I would do, I would set a reminder for myself. Maybe if I was organized in my calendar, maybe it's even on my phone. A reminder for myself to do this. I'd then have to find the previous month's deck and duplicate it. And then I'd remind the other PMs to update their slides in my team. I might do that on Teams or Slack. With a general automation platform, you can automate this entire process. So you might spend a couple of hours setting the automation up, but now every single month you're saving, you might forget to do it. So you're saving yourself that. You might forget to tell everyone else. You're ensuring that your processes are completely streamlined. So with an automation platform, you can save hours on manual tasks such as data entry, make less mistakes, and maintain data integrity by having data pipe into multiple different sources from the same parent source.
So how can no-code tools, thanks for that, Sheree, how can no-code tools help us? So this is actually quite interesting, and I think like Sheree mentioned, like we kind of met at weekend clubs. So I've been doing some of these, like using some of these tools on my weekends, and kind of like being able to connect with people that were doing a lot of amazing things using these tools. And I had that funny realization at work where I'd basically we were working in a company where we had ambitious plans to, and we still do, to kind of grow. And what that meant is that a lot of the shareholders, board of directors, the C-suite were basically, turning to me to kind of like figure out and quickly validate, this new business that we were building. So I mentioned earlier that we were building this new business from scratch. And anyone who's been in that hot seat knows what it's like when you're trying to fight for kind of like, resources and kind of like buy-in to be able to do a lot of these things quite early on. And I remember feeling like I had everything under control. So, our initial challenge was that we wanted to build a lead capture form to be able to collect leads from a new marketing campaign that was going to go out. And even though I'd been working with our operations contact and kind of like bringing them along throughout the whole journey, there was that, we even had a very good understanding that there was going to be some kind of manual process involved. But I remember like probably like a day or two before we were set to go live, that's when the operations, you know, my colleague in operations basically dropped the bomb and said, look, James, you know, what happens if we get more customers than expected? You don't understand, James, like we need all this information in a suitable manner, because once leads come in, the pressure's on to deliver. And I basically, like, I remember that afternoon thinking, okay, what the heck are we going to do now? And there wasn't time for another sprint. Like, we were going to go live in 2 days, and everyone was working towards this and expecting it. And I suddenly, like, I kind of like just kind of stopped for a second and thought, actually, there is a solution to this. I was kind of curious, and I was thinking, let me see what we can do. And because we were using form carry to capture leads, I just basically went onto Zapier and just looked at, what can we connect it to kind of like save leads. And then I saw that Trello connected with form carry using Zapier, and I was like, brilliant, I know how to use Zapier. And I was able to kind of sit with my operations colleague, and just kind of sit there and understand, how he was thinking about the funnel, and, be able to kind of help him create that funnel. And it just meant that, all he really wanted was like a place for him to put his leads and be able to start transacting and working on there. Now, maybe someone else would have probably, and this definitely crossed my mind, would have, gone to like the execs or the seniors and said, we need a new marketing CRM. It's going to take 2 to 3 months. But here we were able to kind of basically spin up a mini CRM, within a matter of hours, and just doing a little bit of configuration. And that's where, like, for me, like, NoCode began to save the day. And I just basically felt like Jordan in the halftime, before the buzzer hits and you just kind of scored a free throw. That's exactly how I felt at that time. So what does this mean for us as PMs? Like, as PMs, we know that there's always more ideas than there is time. And obviously time is money as well. In that situation, I was able to kind of like basically save on our OPEX costs by being able to like have this CRM in place. And it just meant that we was able to remove the in-house constraints of our ability to deliver within our technical constraints. And I feel like that's where NoCode tools like really save the day in a lot of these situations. And I think that's why it's important to use as well. Also, they help us solve our problems quicker, because, if we sat on those leads and we waited till we got our CRM, even if it took us, a couple weeks or a month, like those are hot leads that basically could have effectively gone cold. And it's about reducing that cost of delay. Like the cost, our problem here was like not that we got the leads, but how can we deliver that? How can we deliver on them? And I think a lot of times as PMs, like a lot of our customers are out on the market, out on the street, and those are the customers that we focus on. But there are a lot of problems that we can solve in terms of like being able to scale and work efficiently in-house. And that's where I feel like, there are a lot of cool things within the workflow automation tools, as well as things like lead capture forms as well, that you're able to use.
Thanks, James. That was pretty cool to hear. So I know that at Trey.io and definitely at So Energy as well, over the last few months, businesses all over the world have been struggling, and we've kind of had to reconsider our strategies. How can we pivot and change to reflect what's going on in the markets? And for us, retention is the new growth. We know that acquiring customers is 7 times more expensive than retaining customers. So retaining customers is more important than ever. So as a product manager, how can you use NoCode tools to help you retain more customers? At Trey.io, we use something internally called a user score. And this score is a model that we've created that kind of reflects a person's ability to use our platform. And we use NoCode platforms to help surface this data that can point us in the right direction. So we know at Trey, builders with a low user score are more likely to churn. So we find these customers, we'll work with our customer success and enablement teams to put together a strategy to engage these builders and retain them. With this data, once we've surfaced these types of users and customers, we can then tailor our services and have a white glove approach for these customers at risk. We've created new things really quickly in a short amount of time like our academy, revamping our docs platform, to help customers enable themselves. So, we only have a small customer success team, but we need to ensure customers can help themselves too. So we're really smart about our resources. We're using our NoCode tools to the best of their ability to ensure that, we're not just gaining new customers, but retaining and really valuing the ones that we already have.
Brilliant. So I spoke about obviously this story about being in that situation where we needed a tool, we were short on time and there was a lot of uncertainty, and I also spoke about the fact that we use these tools, which were Formcarry, Zapier and Trello, and what's quite funny as well, like, is even since we created these slides in preparation for today, our business has kind of like given me even more buy-in for some of these tools that we're using, and a good example of that is in terms of our marketing. We wanted to be able to deliver marketing and not have to go through the long procurement cycle in regards to how we were kind of like engaging with our leads and creating awareness and being able to kind of like quickly do smart things and automations. Now, traditionally, we would have probably used maybe like gone enterprise and said, let's use a tool like HubSpot, or, really down market and said, let's use a tool like MailChimp. But because I was able to understand a bit more about some of the tools in the marketplace, like for me, it was either Convertkit, Email Octopus or MailerLite. So we've actually turned to Convertkit. And what does that enable me to do? Well, that's enabled me to, again, within the last week, really spin up some really quick campaigns that we could use because we're being scrappy. We're building essentially a new business from scratch, but also able to kind of do cool things like visual automations, which I really found quite challenging and frustrating to get my head around with MailChimp. But because of the way Convertkit's been designed, I'm now able to kind of create these automations and do things such as, put someone in a funnel, and if they click a link, they can get this message or they can get that message depending on different actions that they've taken. And I've never been able to do that with email marketing, and I've always kind of like left it in the realm of like, these super talented growth marketers or things like that. But these are the things that you're able to do if you've got the right NoCode tool that's empowering you. And I think that's important, and I think that's why like it's a real big validation of the reason why NoCode tools, I feel like, are something that PMs need to have more in their toolkit, and it empowers knowledge workers. How many times have you known what you've needed? And we talk about user personas and buyer personas. In this scenario, I'm the user persona because I'm the person that's decided that actually we're going to do some marketing campaigns and we're just going to be a bit scrappy. But a lot of the time, a lot of these decisions are probably made by someone higher up that doesn't really know what tools you need to do your job and is probably not going to understand the nuances of the kind of experience you need, or what kind of things you're going to be able to do. And I think that's where like the right NoCode tools are really, really good, because they're designed to kind of make your life easier and without the assumptions that we all make when we're building products in the beginning.
Thanks, James. I'm now going to talk about my experience at Trey.io and working at an automation company. So I mentioned previously that the Trey platform is a low-code automation platform, which basically puts automations in the hands of anyone and reduces the load on engineering teams. And using Trey or any automation platform, you can connect your entire cloud stack to automate loads of different processes, lead generation, sales enablement, HR processes, even feature management for product managers. Next slide, please. So I talked about empowering teams outside of engineering. This is super important for us because we really respect every single person's time in the company, and we want to get the most out of their time. We don't want them wasting time doing menial tasks. So we automate everything ourselves internally as well. Couple of examples I have here. So in product, we have a Slack to product board integration. So product board is a product management tool where you can collect feedback and then sort of sort it out afterwards as all part of your product discovery process. And in Slack, we have a channel, and stakeholders write messages in Slack like, as a user, I want to do X because of Y, you know, our standard user story convention. And, you know, they can then, on the message, send that straight to product board. And that gets stored in product board as an insight. And that totally enables our internal users to be empowered to write their own messages and push it straight to product board. And then as PMs, we'll then go and look at all our insights and sort through them and you know, understand what problems we're trying to solve. We also use LaunchDarkly, which is a feature flag management tool, and a Slack / command to enable feature flags for customers. So anyone internally who wants to get access to a new feature that's in beta can use a / command and turn on that feature for themselves, which is pretty cool and totally empowers everyone at Trey. So, and we can do that for our customers. So if any customer wants to be on a beta, it's our team in SF can do it without having to rely on a product team based in, you know, 8-hour time zone difference in London. Sales team have an amazing channel, especially at the end of quarter, called Sales Wins. And basically every time an update is made in Salesforce where an opportunity is closed won, it sends that to the Sales Win channel saying that we've closed a new deal. And obviously like 100 messages ensue saying like congrats and various gifts. Our engineering team do all their code deployments automated via GitHub and Trey, and our marketing team do their lead generation for prospects as well. So, you know, in the current climate, we've had to completely pivot and reprioritize, and having, you know, all our automations built in just makes it a lot quicker for all our different teams.
Sheree, just a quick question, just to step in, because this sounds super interesting and obviously probably the first time I'm hearing this. So at Trey, are you guys like actually building on these things directly, or you bring like, are you kind of piecing things together? Like, how are you making, like, how you like, what's the kind of like thought behind the empowerment of products, sales, and marketing? Because you don't normally, you know, a lot of times we always talk about silos, but it sounds like you guys are proper thinking about how you can empower these different sets of people to kind of work together and make their life easier.
Yeah, so that's really exactly it. So taking the example I said before about enabling feature flags. So we use this tool, LaunchDarkly, and it essentially means that you can put all your code behind a flag. So you can do code deployments in the background, decoupled from your feature releases, which is great. And, you know, we can obviously turn feature flags on for certain customers. But there's only a few gatekeepers of this product. It's the product team pretty much, and like the CTO, and we're all based in London, and our go-to-market team is based in San Francisco. So, you know, if a customer wants to go on a beta program, which we always encourage and we want, but it's like midnight or 1 a.m. for someone in London, and, you know, yes, it might not be urgent, but if we want to keep our customers happy and we want to be responsive, and we don't want the SF team and customer success manager to go back and say, oh, you know, sorry, we can't enable the beta for you right now. You know, it should really be immediate. So, you know, we had those issues where the next morning I have like a load of Slack messages being like, oh, please, can you enable the beta for these 3 users? And I thought to myself, like, there's got to be a way. Like and that's the thing with Trey, is that there is always a way. In any automation platform, there's always a way. And LaunchDarkly have a public API. So I built using Slack's API is incredible as well. So you can build, you know, anyone can build Slack apps, which is amazing. You know, they're such a great example of a no-code tool because they really, really empower people. So I built a Slack app, I built a / command, and what happens in Slack is, actually, I think I've got a demo of it later, so I can show you, but, you know, you just type in the command, you get a nice modal, and you can, you know, put in any user's email, and then you can turn on the feature flag for them. So we really want to, and now that workflow gets used about 20 odd times a day. So we really want people to be empowered themselves. And we don't want only product people to only do product things. We don't want only sales people to do sales things. Like just yesterday, we closed a deal that was sourced by a product manager. It doesn't happen all the time, but we want to encourage people, you know, if you want to get involved in marketing, if you have ideas, like, we want you to be involved in all aspects of the business. And because we can automate things ourselves, it makes it that much easier for us.
Yeah, thanks. Nice.
So another good use case I can talk through just on the next slide is an HR case study. And HR, as I kind of mentioned before, is quite like more traditional operation where things have been in like databases and spreadsheets. And basically this customer here uses their various SaaS tools along with Trey to update Bamboo whenever an offer is made to a candidate. So we have a few snippets from the workflow. So it's basically showing that the workflow is listening for when the Greenhouse, which is their recruitment tool, is updated. So they're listening via a webhook. And then the workflow formats the individual's details. So you can, format the address, you can format their email, format their name, etc. And it sends all those details to Bamboo. It updates any financial information. And then finally, it sends an email to their manager to let them know. And, we could extend this, to include their whole employee lifestyle updates and, they call it like the hire to retire process. So let's say someone gets a promotion and gets a pay rise, or someone goes on a sabbatical and their pay gets frozen for 3 months. We can also do these things in the workflow. And then, if they leave the company, we can do the same to remove them from the system. So on to actually building an automation platform, because it probably sounds kind of a bit crazy and where do you even start? So the automation platform is based around what we call a connector. And a connector is essentially a wrapper around an API service. So that is any of our no-code tools will have APIs. So Slack, like I mentioned, LaunchDarkly, Salesforce, Marketo, all the tools we mentioned today, they'll have APIs. And having the pre-built connectors in the platform allows us to worry about a service's API, giving you the time to build what you need to build. And in the kind of spirit of no code, low code, and democratizing engineering, we actually hire a whole team of engineers who build these connectors from all different backgrounds. So we have about 25 of them. A lot of them come from boot camps. We've got an ex-nurse, an ex-butcher, kind of you name it, we've got it. And we really want to bring people in who don't have technical backgrounds to come in and learn and help other people solve problems. And I think if you go on the next slide, I've got the demo that I was just mentioning before, so I can we can play that, and I can kind of talk you through the workflow that I was talking about before.
Demo time, brilliant. How do I play the demo? Remind me.
You should just be able to click on the video itself.
Let's see. Hang on a second. I think if you.
Okay, apologies. That's not actually working, but I think I talked through it quite a lot before, and we can certainly send this video around for people who are interested at the end. So apologies about that.
Nice. We gave him a nice little cliffhanger on the demo.
Exactly.
We're gonna have to reach out for that one. All right, brilliant. Cool. So yeah, I think just to kind of summarize, and we hope you guys kind of enjoyed it, but no-code tools are solving a lot of problems, for people like myself who are kind of using no-code tools, and people like Sheree who's actually building and making, kind of really thinking deeply about these problems and how to kind of solve it and empower different people. And yeah, I wanted to share a really cool resource as well, which is from the Maker community as well. So that's quite easy to read, or you can screenshot it, but that kind of gives you some kind of more resources to kind of look at as well. Sheree, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else as well to that.
No, just thank you so much for joining. Apologies about the demo, and yeah, we'd love to answer any questions, and yeah, just get into a chat with you guys now about any of what we've just talked about. So I think if we go to the Q&A, we got a few questions. So the first one was, could you please share more about the Maker community that we talked about, and how does one interested in no code get involved? So yeah, the one we talked about before is an amazing community called Weekend Club, and I think their website is weekendclub.co, and it's essentially an accountable, used to be in real life meetup where makers and builders got together who were working on different side projects and basically just shared their knowledge and were kind of just held accountable for what they were doing. So when it was in real life, it used to meet up once a fortnight in a co-working space in Whitechapel, and everyone got together and talked about what they were working on, asked questions. You could show prototypes, get feedback from people, and it was a great chance to share skills as well, because let's say you're an engineer but you've got absolutely no design knowledge. There might be a designer that's come along today who needs a back-end engineer, and you can kind of swap skills and really help each other out.
Brilliant. I'll answer this question. So there's a question about, do you think no-code tools might slowly eliminate the need for specialist engineers? I don't actually believe that. What I say is that, like, you can get 95% of the way there. Like, if you think about people who are maybe like your first time founders, or people who are building cool stuff in the maker communities, or people that are seeing problems maybe in the workplace that they've seen that they can solve, because maybe someone in the business says, oh, this is becoming a pain, or the people that are closest to it kind of have this problem, and then they build something on a weekend in a community like Weekend Club, and then maybe there's a conversation to be had about, this is I've actually built this to solve this problem. But what I strongly believe is, like, you can get 95% of the way there without no-code tools, and then the other kind of like 5% you can have engineers working on. And in my experience, I don't know about you, a lot of the engineers I work with really want to solve complex problems, and I think that's probably where they're a lot of the opportunity is as well, because now they don't have to worry about doing the same old thing. They actually get to try using a new stack or using the latest cutting edge technology to actually solve these problems. And a lot of these no-code tools are built by engineers anyway. So, if the no-code kind of movement is growing, that's a massive opportunity. And I'm seeing it myself a lot especially in like indie hacker communities, where people are like, what kind of no-code tool can we build for you guys next? And a lot of engineers are participating in that as well. And kind of like, finally on that point, I think it's really forcing engineers to really think a little bit like designers as well, because they're starting to think like, how can we make the user experience even better? Because we've seen that there's a demand for this, and this is what really people want.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I read out the next question, which is what no-code tools do you both use at Trey and So Energy, and why do you prefer the ones you use over others? I'll kick this off with a few that I absolutely love. I really love Notion. We kind of adopted Notion pretty wildly and dramatically at Trey. All of a sudden it was like Confluence is out and Notion is in. And what was so great about Notion was it was just that easy to use. So, we could export everything from Confluence and just import it back into Notion. You can do so many powerful things, create relational databases. It's basically just your kind of one-stop shop for kind of combining all of our G Suite tools. So I really love Notion, and I really also love Product Board, which is the product management tool I mentioned earlier. It actually took me a while to get on board with it at first, because we didn't care for it very well. We didn't give it the love that it actually deserved, and it was a little bit cluttered. But one day, 5 of us sat in a room for about 3 hours, and we kind of said, okay, we're sorting out Product Board. And now it's totally our one-stop shop for all our product management processes. So I said, like, we have the Slack integration, so all of our insights go straight from Slack or via an email inbox into Product Board. And then on a regular basis we go into Product Board, look at the insights, analyze them with our design team and our engineers, and understand the problems to solve. We can then easily sort them all out into different features. We can then put it on a customer facing and internal facing roadmap. And then from there, it's even got a Jira integration. So we can create epics and stories straight from there. So it's really the place where it's kind of like, our product management home, where we're kind of, doing all our work. So I really love those two. What about you, James?
Yeah. So for me, like, what's quite different is, like, for me, like, like I said before, I'm kind of like a customer of no-code tools. Like, so, I'm feeding my curiosity around no-code tools even more and more. And I really like Trello, because um, it just allows us to do kind of really simple things. Like there's so many different use cases for Trello. Like you can use it as a CRM, you can use it as a Kanban board for your roadmaps if you don't want to invest in like a big expensive one. Like, and to be honest, arguably that's all you really need. So, you know, and I think what I've started to do now is like kind of think about, okay, before I get a tool, what does it integrate with that we already use? And I think that's really where the magic happens, because you know you want to kind of make that flow, you know, come in really, really well. You know, we did a bit of Facebook lead generation, and I was surprised, but you know, it integrates. You can get your Facebook leads coming in directly to your marketing campaigns. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's just amazing what you're able to do without, you know, if you're aware of these things. You know, and I'm starting to like play with like lead generation tools, and you know, we're looking at some kind of like mini CRM as well. So like my starting point is always going to be like, what workflow automations can we do to make life easier, so that the sum of many parts is easier for everyone else.
Yeah, I love Trello as well. And I think my favorite thing about Trello is that they haven't actually tried to do too much, even with the space. And there's a lot of copycat style tools. And even in Notion, you can make Kanban boards as well. So like another reason why I love Notion. But with Trello, like they've seen the competitors, but they've really stuck to what they're good at. And they haven't tried to overcomplicate things. They haven't like diluted like the magic of their product. So I love Trello as well.
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely not punching above their weight. They're just doing their thing, what they do really, really well. So
yeah, I totally agree.
So another one, let's take this one. If you're part of a team getting started with these kind of tools, are there meetups or communities of practice to join and be aware of? There's actually quite a lot actually coming up. I'll see. I want to hear what Sheree says actually, because I've got some in mind, but I want to see what you say first.
Yeah. So communities. I'm more part of some wider. I'm part of like, I'd say, wider tech communities, more like women in tech and like women in product and everything else. But within those, I'm starting to see a lot of conversations and like kind of side groups starting about the NoCode conversation. There's like the wider conferences as well every year, like the NoCode conference. But meetups, actually, I think I'm gonna have to defer to you, James, because I don't actually myself. I've not been to many. Well, it's more difficult recently, but I hadn't been to any last year.
Okay, yeah. So what I'll say, like in my search and kind of like for answers to these questions, like for example, Bubbles doing like, they're like a no-code app builder, which is really powerful and kind of actually exports as a real app. They're like the leading player in the space, and you know, they've got like, you're finding quite very niche Facebook groups and kind of like communities as well around these things. And I think there's a lot of video content as well. Like all you have to do really is just type in the word no code into like a Twitter search, and you'll see quite a few people. But it's really hard to see because it's so cutting edge and early. I wouldn't say there's one like overall leader. I think you just need to kind of like, you know, participate in things like 100 days of no code, or you know, go to the no code conference and kind of, or just even look at who the speakers are for these no code conferences to kind of see who's really participating. And I actually asked this question on Indie Hackers about a month ago, like how do you kind of like contribute more positively to the no code community? And I think, you know, the answer that I was given, which I agree with, is like you participate by using these tools and advocating these tools that we are now, and just kind of like, you know, kind of like spreading the news about it, you know. And I think, you know, it's enabling more people to kind of want to create more things. And that's what I like about it. There's just like, there is no monopoly on like, we're going to be the company that's building all the no code tools. Like a lot of different people are participating in this and making it more valuable for everyone.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it does have a community style feel. Like you don't have companies sort of like slating the other one, and it's all about, you know, try this, you know, see what's best for you. I actually love Reddit as well, and there's a good no code subreddit which I use quite a lot. And we actually forgot to mention definitely one of the biggest communities, which is Makerpad.
Yeah.
which is an incredible tool and community for learning, and it's a massive forum, and there's loads of tutorials about learning no-code tools. And they actually they just launched their competition. Actually, I think they run an annual competition of who can sort of build the most creative thing with no-code tools. So definitely try and get involved with that.
Okay, brilliant. Any no-code examples of companies running member-only community areas and content? So that one's quite cool because there's I know Launchpass allows people to have member-only communities in Slack. That's the only one I know about so far. But if you're building a communities, and communities is such a hot topic now. Like, people are talking about community-led companies, and yeah, I think me and Sheree we're both fans of like the whole grassroots, small business, small kind of like, yeah, community-led approach to kind of building things. And if you've got a community on Slack, Launchpass allows you to kind of create that membership as well on Slack.
Nice. We've got a pretty good question here from Andrea. Where would you draw the line between problems to solve with high versus low code solutions if the team has a choice? I think for me, it totally depends where you are and your company is as a business. So if you're a startup or part of community and you need answers quickly and you don't have time to invest, it has to be low code solutions. Even if you have the engineering skills, why waste like 3-4 months? When you engineer, it's not just about writing the code, it's about the testing of it as well, and making sure that your code is stable, and you're totally reliant on yourself to do that. Whereas with low code solutions, you can just do things so quickly. You already have a stable and reliable tool in the no code tool, and you can get answers super quickly, and you can iterate. Like, these days, I mentioned before, like, we don't have 3-year timelines where we can perfectly craft out like a 20-page requirements doc, and who wants that anyway? We have to, build something scrappy quickly. And from my experience, like, people are more than happy to look at a piece of paper with a few boxes drawn on it, and you going, can you do this and that? I think if the time and money allows, then a combination of both high code and low code solutions. Like, enterprises are built on, stable, coding, high code solutions. So I would definitely advocate for that but basically when your team allows it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to kind of just add to what you said as well, I think this is where the strategy piece comes in. Like, even myself, like, I crafted our product vision for our solar product like 6 months ago, and I made sure we had a review 3 months after we'd done a lot of user research. And we're even thinking about it now as well. And I think, like, being able to like really say to yourself, like, who do we want to be in 3 to 5 years? Because like, just because someone else is doing something cool in the market doesn't necessarily mean that that's where your core competencies lie as a company, or you've got the in-house capabilities to deliver it within a given time frame. And I think, like, having low code tools are kind of like, it's great because it just reminds the company that actually, this company does this thing very, very, very well. Like, let's just use them whilst we focus on who we really want to be as a company. And that's where that strategic piece comes in. So I always say, like, 1 is better than 0, 2 is better than 1, and basically, and so forth. And then, you can kind of iterate, and as Sheree said, you can kind of like get to market quicker, or, solve problems quicker, and, get the buy-in and revenue because you're able to kind of like do it quicker. I think last question, because Sheree's gonna give us a demo. So is there anything specific that either of you have done to increase buy-in or attitude towards the use of no-code tools within your organization? Yeah, I'll start with this one, and maybe if Sheree wants to add. But I think, like, for me personally, I was in a situation where I just had to deliver. Like, it was I'd literally joined, So Energy at 2 months prior, and a lot of work had been gone in with our design, our UX teams and our engineers, and we needed a solution. And I was probably like, typical James, but I was basically asking for forgiveness rather than permission, in the sense that, like, I didn't really want to hang around and wait for a long procurement cycle for us to be able to get a marketing CRM. I knew that we could start processing leads now. And I knew that Trello was like secure enough, stable enough, well-known enough to be able to do the job. And I think, you know, like, I remember like the kind of light bulb moment, like when that came up as a solution and we were able to do it quickly, like I could just see that the business had thought that we were going to have to like delay things by another month or two. And like they had that light bulb moment when, you know, when I got things going. And since then, what's quite funny is like every time, so it's kind of like a gift and a curse. Every time, you know, it seems like development are giving us long estimates. They're like, yeah, but James, I'm sure you know a NoCode tool that can do that for us quicker. And so it's kind of proof in the pudding that, you know, like there's a lot more buying to it as well.
Nice. I think you covered that pretty well. So yeah, now because I'm obsessed with wanting to show this demo, I've got it up, so I'm just going to quickly do that, and we can still answer some more questions at the end if we've got time. Just making sure you can all see my screen. Cool. So this what we have on the screen is the app I was talking about, Launch Darkly, where we manage feature flags. So this is one of the feature flags that we have. It's called Properties Panel Tabs, and it's basically a new UI for one of our features. And we can see that there's 3 people on true and 1 person on false. So basically the slash command I built is called flag targeting, and you do that slash command in Slack, and you then type the user's email. And then you'll get this nice modal populated where you can select the environment. You can choose the flag names, that was Properties Panel Tabs. And you can choose whether you want to enable or disable it. So we'll choose to enable. So you click submit, and there's lots of background magic happening. And then you get a nice message from Slackbot saying your flag was successfully updated. So we can go back to the Properties Panel Tabs and see that I've been updated to the true branch. So yeah, that's what I wanted to to demo earlier, and hopefully that's kind of demonstrates more about what an automation tool can do with these other no-code tools as well.
Sick.
Hi guys, thanks very much for that. Thanks to everyone who joined us today. I hope you enjoyed it. This session has been recorded, so it will be up on our Bernstein LinkedIn page as well as our YouTube channel. So if anyone in the audience wants to get involved in any future talks, please do reach out to myself or Becca, our community lead. And also please keep an eye on our social media for our upcoming events. That's it from me. Thanks again, guys. Have a good day.
Everyone, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.